The strawberry milkshake hit Emma's face with enough force to make her stumble backward. Cold, thick, humiliating. It dripped from her hair, down her neck, soaking into the uniform she'd washed by hand at her sink that morning because the laundromat cost $3 she couldn't spare. The laughter came next. High-pitched, cruel, the kind that cut deeper than the cold ever could. And beneath it all, the sound of a phone recording, capturing every second, immortalizing her humiliation for strangers on the internet to mock. Emma stood frozen in the middle of Route 59 diner, strawberry milkshake dripping from her blonde hair onto the checkered floor she'd mopped just an hour ago. 22 years old, nursing student, working double shifts 6 days a week, living in a rented room above the hardware store where the heat barely worked and the walls were so thin she could hear her neighbor's television at 3 a.m. She'd been saving every tip, every dollar, trying to make it in next semester. Try to survive long enough to become someone who helped people instead of serve them. And now, 3 teenagers who'd never worked a day in their lives were laughing at her, like she was the punchline to a joke she hadn't heard. Here's what you need to know before this gets wild. If you believe that cruelty shouldn't be consequence-free, that working people deserve dignity, and that sometimes the scariest-looking people turn out to be heroes, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, because what happens in the next 9 minutes will restore your faith that justice still exists, even in places you'd never expect. Route 59 Diner sat 23 miles outside Riverside, California, the kind of roadside cafe that existed in the gap between nowhere and somewhere. It had been there since 1967, built when the highway was new and road trips meant something. Red vinyl booths with duct tape over the tiers. A jukebox that still played actual records if you fed it quarters. Black and white checkerboard floor worn smooth by 60 years of boots and shoes and the weight of tired travelers. The neon sign outside flickered Route 59 Diner, best milkshakes in California, and it wasn't lying. The shakes were legendary. Thick enough to bend straw. Made with real ice cream, real milk, real everything. People drove out of their way for them. The owner, Clayton Webb, was 71 years old and had been running the diner since 1989. He bought it from the original owner's widow with money he'd saved from 30 years working oil rigs. He was tough, fair, and had zero tolerance for nonsense. He'd fired 3 servers in 2 years for being rude to customers. But Emma Morrison? Clayton loved her. She worked harder than anyone he'd ever employed. Never complained. Never called in sick. Always early. Always smiling, even when he knew she was exhausted. Emma had moved to Riverside 3 months ago from a small town in Oregon where everyone knew everyone and jobs were scarce. She'd gotten accepted to the nursing program at Riverside Community College and had scraped together enough money for first month's rent and tuition. Barely. The plan was to work, save, study, survive. Graduate in 2 years. Bekulma an enoza. Help people the way nurses had helped her mother before cancer won. That was the dream. The reality was double shifts, aching feet, and customers who treated her like furniture. Except most customers were decent. Most left tips. Most said thank you. Most recognized her humanity. But not these 3. Chase Donovan, 17, sat in the center booth like he owned it. Maybe he did in a way. His father owned Donovan Development, the company that had built half the commercial properties in Riverside. Chase drove a BMW his parents bought him for his 16th birthday, wore designer clothes that cost more than Emma made in a month, and treated everyone who wasn't rich like they were invisible, or worse, like they existed solely for his entertainment. Riley Martinez sat beside him, Chase's girlfriend of 8 months. 16, beautiful in that calculated way that came from expensive haircuts and makeup tutorials and enough money to always look perfect. She was mean because Chase was mean, because being cruel together felt like intimacy, because she'd learned that the only way to avoid being the target was to help him find new ones. Blake Henderson was the follower. 17, quiet, always uncomfortable, but never brave enough to say no. His parents owned Henderson's auto group, 3 dealerships across the county. Blake knew what they were doing was wrong, but standing up to Chase meant being alone, and being alone was terrifying. They'd come to Route 59 Diner specifically to cause trouble. Chase had been recording pranks for his TikTok for months. Stupid, cruel stunts that humiliated service workers who couldn't fight back without losing their jobs. He had 47,000 followers who thought he was hilarious, who commented savage and she got wrecked, and never considered that the person on the receiving end was human. Today's plan was simple. Order food, complain about everything, film the waitress's reaction, throw something, upload it, watch the views climb. What Chase didn't know was that the man sitting in the corner booth, the one with the beard and the scars and the leather vest with patches that told stories Chase was too ignorant to read, had been watching from the moment they walked in. And that man had a very different idea about what was going to happen next. Grizz Anderson was 54 years old, 6'4", 270 pounds of muscle and weathered skin and tattoos that crawled up both arms, telling stories of 33 years in the Hells Angels. His real name was Marcus, but nobody had called him that since 1991. The scar across his left eyebrow came from a bar fight in Tucson. The one on his neck came from a motorcycle accident that should have killed him. The ones you couldn't see came from a childhood nobody talked about and a father who taught him that strength meant never showing weakness, never backing down, and never, ever letting bullies win. Grizz had stopped at Route 59 Diner because he'd been coming here since 1995. Because Clayton knew how he liked his coffee. Because the chocolate shake was the best he'd ever had. Because today marked 5 years since his daughter died of an overdose at 19, and this diner was where they'd eaten lunch every Sunday when she was little, before the divorce, before everything fell apart, before he lost her to demons he couldn't fight. He'd come here to remember, to sit quietly, to feel close to her again. His brothers from a Riverside chapter were supposed to meet him here in 20 minutes. They just finished a charity ride benefiting a children's hospital, had raised $23,000, had done something good, and Grizz was tired, reflective, his heart heavy with memories of a little girl who used to dip her fries in her milkshake and laugh when he pretended to be disgusted. And then these 3 kids walked in, and Grizz felt it immediately. The energy, the cruelty waiting to happen. The way Chase looked at Emma like she wasn't human. Emma had approached their table with the practiced smile she'd perfected over 3 months. "Hey guys, welcome to Route 59. Can I start you off with something to drink?" Chase hadn't looked up from his phone. "Yeah, 3 chocolate shakes. Actually make mine strawberry. And make sure they're good because last time we were here they sucked." Emma had never seen them before. "Okay, strawberry and 2 chocolate. Coming right up." When she brought the shakes, Chase started. "These look watery. Are these even made with real ice cream?" "Yes, sir. Everything here is made fresh with." "I didn't ask for a commercial. Just bring us food. Burgers, fries, whatever. And hurry up. We don't have all day." Emma had taken the order, put it in, brought the food. And that's when it started. "This burger is overcooked. These fries are cold. Why is the ketchup bottle empty? Did you even wash your hands?" Each complaint delivered while Chase's phone captured Emma's increasingly strained smile. She'd apologized, offered to remake everything, try to stay professional. And then Chase had looked at his followers and said, "Watch this." He grabbed his strawberry shake and thrown it directly at Emma's face. The entire thick, cold, pink mass hitting her like a slap. Riley immediately pushed her chocolate shake off the table, laughing as it splashed across Emma's shoes. Blake sat frozen, wanting to stop it, but paralyzed by cowardice. Emma stood there, dripping, shaking. The diner had gone completely silent. Every customer watching. Every person making the same calculation. Do I get involved? Do I say something? Do I risk confrontation? And Chase kept filming. "Oops. Guess she's too slow to dodge." He laughed into the camera. "Like and follow for more content." Emma's voice came out broken. "I'll get a towel." "No." Chase stood up, approaching her with his phone. "We'll get a towel to wipe up this loser's face." That's when Grizz stood up. The movement was slow, deliberate. Every eye in the diner shifted to him as he unfolded from the booth, his massive frame suddenly dominating the space. His boots hit the checkered floor with heavy footfalls that echoed in the silence. Chase was still walking toward Emma, still filming, still laughing, completely oblivious until Grizz's hand landed on his shoulder. Not grabbing, not squeezing, just there, heavy, undeniable. Son, Grizz's voice was quiet but carried through the entire diner. Not threatening, factual. If you take one more step toward that girl, your daddy's money won't save you. Chase spun around, phone dropping to his side. Up close, Grizz was terrifying. Scars, tattoos, the leather vest with the Hell's Angels patch clear across his back. The kind of man Chase's parents had taught him to fear and avoid. We were just... Chase's bravado evaporated instantly. You were just what? Grizz asked calmly. Just humiliating someone who's working to survive? Just recording it for entertainment? Just being the kind of person who makes the world worse? Riley grabbed Chase's arm. Let's just go. This is stupid. But Grizz wasn't done. He looked at Emma, who stood frozen, milkshake still dripping from her hair, tears streaming down her face mixing with strawberry pink. Miss, you okay? Emma nodded, but couldn't speak. Grizz looked back at Chase. You think being cruel makes you strong? Let me teach you what strength really is. The door opened. 10 Hell's Angels walked in. They didn't rush, didn't shout, just filed in one by one, forming a semicircle around the booth where the teens sat, blocking every exit, not threatening, just present, undeniable. Grizz had texted them 2 minutes ago. Simple message, Route 59. Need you now. And they came. Because that's what brothers do. The leader of the new arrivals was a man called Reaper, president of the Riverside chapter. 60 years old, gray beard, eyes that had seen everything twice. What's the situation? Reaper asked Grizz. These 3 kids just assaulted this young lady. Threw milkshakes at her. Filmed it for internet points. Need to understand that actions have consequences. Reaper looked at Chase, at Riley, at Blake. Looked at Emma, dripping in the corner. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went cold. You filmed this? Reaper asked. Chase nodded, unable to speak. Good. Give me your phone. I can't. It's my property. Son, you just committed assault and battery. Filmed yourself doing it. Now you can give me that phone, or I can call the sheriff's department and let them confiscate it as evidence. Your choice. Chase's hands shook as he handed over the phone. Reaper watched the video. Every second. The throw. The laughter. Emma's humiliation. When he finished, his jaw was tight. You posted this? Not yet. Good. Reaper deleted the video, then handed the phone back. Now, you're going to apologize. To her. To everyone in this diner. And you're going to mean it. Look, we'll just pay for the food and leave. You'll do what I said, Reaper interrupted. Or we're calling the police right now and pressing charges. Assault. Battery. Creating a disturbance. How does that sound on your college applications? Blake spoke for the first time. I am sorry. We shouldn't have done that. I'm really sorry. His voice cracked. Chase looked at Riley. At the bikers. At Emma. Pride fighting with fear. Fear won. I'm sorry, he muttered. Louder, Grizz said. And look at her when you say it. Chase forced himself to meet Emma's eyes. I'm sorry for throwing the milkshake. It was wrong. I am sorry. Why'd you do it? Grizz asked. For views. For my channel. You humiliated someone for entertainment. You understand that. Chase nodded, tears forming now. Here's what's going to happen, Reaper said. You're going to pay for every meal in this diner tonight. All of them. You're going to leave this young lady a $500 tip. And you're never coming back here. Ever. If we hear about you doing something like this again, anywhere, to anyone, that video gets undelete and sent to every news station in the county. Understood? We don't have $500. Then call your daddy. The one whose money you thought would save you. Call him right now and tell him what you did. Tell him you need $500 because you assaulted a waitress. The call was made. Chase's father answered. In front of everyone, Chase had to explain what happened. The humiliation in his voice was obvious. His father's angry voice was loud enough for people nearby to hear. 30 minutes later, Chase's father arrived. 52, expensive suit, furious expression. He looked at the bikers, at his son, at Emma still standing there in her milkshake-soaked uniform. I'm deeply sorry, he said to Emma. Not a safe face. Genuine shame in his voice. This is unacceptable. I'll pay whatever damages, whatever you need. He handed Emma an envelope. Inside, a check for $2,000. That's not from him. That's from me. For what you've been through. Then he turned to his son. Get in the car. We'll talk at home. And I promise you, this isn't over. After they left, after the diner slowly returned to normal, after the other customers went back to their meals, Grizz approached Emma. She was in the back, changing into a spare uniform Clayton kept for emergencies, trying to wash Milkshake out of her hair in the tiny bathroom sink. Miss, Grizz knocked gently. You okay? Emma opened the door, eyes red from crying. Thank you. For standing up. For calling your friends. For everything. Don't thank me. That's just being decent. But I want you to know something. What happened? That wasn't about you. That was about them. Their emptiness. Their need to feel powerful by making others feel small. You didn't deserve it. I know, but no buts. You're working hard. Try to build something that makes you stronger than they'll ever be. He handed her a card. This has my number. You ever need anything, you call. Doesn't matter what. Doesn't matter when. You're under our protection now. That's what family does. I'm not family, Emma said. You are now. 3 weeks later, Emma's story went viral, but not the way Chase intended. Customers who'd been in the diner that day shared what happened. Local news picked it up. Hell's Angels protect Waitress from teen bullies. The story resonated. People were tired of cruelty disguised as content. The Riverside Hell's Angels chapter started a fund for service workers who'd been harassed, for people just trying to survive. In 6 months, they raised $127,000. Emma graduated nursing school 2 years later. She works in the ER now, and hanging in her locker is a photo from that day. Grizz and 10 bikers standing beside her. And underneath, written in Grizz's handwriting, family protects family. Always. If this story moved you, if it made you think about how we treat service workers, how we consume content, how we define strength, do 3 things. First, subscribe. Stories like this need to reach people who've forgotten that kindness matters. That cruelty isn't content. That real strength is standing up for others. Second, share this. Post it everywhere. Tag someone who works in service industry. Tag someone who needs to remember that good people exist, that bullies don't always win. Third, comment, thank you for your service, if you've ever worked a job where people treated you like you were invisible. Because every person working to survive deserves dignity, deserves respect, deserves protection. Be the Grizz in someone's life. Stand up when it costs you nothing, but might mean everything to someone else. Record kindness, not cruelty. Be the person who makes the world better. Thank you for watching. Now go tip your server well. Treat people with dignity. And remember, family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when you need them most.